Hello and welcome everyone to the Magical Witchy World TV. I am Star Ravenhawk.
And I am Rhonda Allen. Welcome back, everyone, this week.
Absolutely.
And this
And
week we
tonight,
have,
tonight we have impromptu Magical Witchy World panel, and we are discussing the topic: Are you a witch, and who decides that for you or yourself? Kind of a thing. Okay.
right on.
Yeah.
Here we go.
All right. Welcome everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Rhonda, go ahead, sweetie.
I'm here. I am back. Welcome, everyone. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for joining us this week. We are so excited. Our first panel of 2024, our first panel
Yes.
with a really, I think, juicy topic. Are you a witch?
Yes.
Who
Yes.
decides? So,
Yes.
we acknowledge it's a really broad topic. We acknowledge that we have a very diverse group of panelists here. We'll be paying attention to the chat. So for anybody who's in the chat, we are going to follow and try to get to all of you as possible. So it's our first question.
Yes. So we're going to begin first with having our beautiful guest say a brief background intro on themselves. So we'll start with Debbie Chapnick.
Hello. I'm the owner of Datura Press, which is an occult publishing company, and an initiate of the Servants of the Light School of Occult Science, and the archivist of Dolores Ashcroft Nowitsky.
Beautiful. Thank you. Ashley Upon.
Yes.
Hi, my name's Ashley. I'm a shamanic practitioner and I host a podcast and I just do all things healing. Yeah, that's me.
There you go. There you go. Thank you. Christina
Beautiful.
Wilton.
Me?
Yes, Christina Wilton.
Okay.
Yes.
I am a paranormal psychologist. I am a witch. I am a psychic, a psychopomp, death doula, occultist, cemeterian, and I am in my 5th and final year before I become a high priestess with the Wiccan family temple.
All right. And Edward.
Hi, I'm an Alexander Wiccan High Priest with a Covenstead, and I run a Pagans' Rights Coalition, not a Pagan Charities Cooperative, which is a Pagans' Rights organization. I also run a magazine called Today's Witch, and that's basically been in the craft since I was 8 years old. I'm 56.
All right. Thank you. We
Fabulous.
have some wonderful and very diverse people here tonight to kind of discuss this. And Rhonda, we never kind of do for
Yes.
ourselves. So Rhonda, just give a quick one, hon.
So quick. So I'm a reader. I have been associated with the assembly. Yes, it's me. So, a professional tarot card reader, former member of the Assembly of the Sacred Wheel. I've been part of the magical world or tradition since I was a minion, coming out of a household where this was also part of the practice in my household. And I am an instructor for the Magical Path School, tarot instructor there, and also a tarot instructor for the Wicca. This is my first year with their with one of their cohorts. My second round is coming up soon. So a little about me.
Okay. All right.
A
And I'll just
star.
give a little. Okay. I am the founder of the Wiccan Family Temple, the Academy of Pagan Studies, and Witches Fest USA. And we are here. You and I are doing the Magical Witchy World TV, introducing people around the world and our many diverse communities of who we are. And so never assume our names or titles or anything like that. Ask. Okay. So here we are. That's me. Okay. One of our first questions.
I would like
to have
to start.
Rhonda take off with that. Go ahead, girl.
And I apologize. There's a little bit of a delay. That's just technology and the wonking. But I would like to start off with opening the floor. What do you call yourselves? And I'm just going to start because he's right in front of me. What do you call yourself?
I actually call myself a high priest or a
Already
witch,
gave
but
us.
I also, but I, but I'm also trained as a traditionalist in the craft. So I worked through the degree system to get to where I'm at.
Okay. I think one of the things too
Hmm.
we want to make sure is when we asking you this particular question is more like because of what the topic is. So it's not necessarily your titles of high priest, high priestess, or any of those things, but what you call yourself, because not everybody calls themselves a
I'm
witch.
a witch.
So it's either witch, Wiccan, but
I'm,
that kind of a thing.
I'm a Wiccan. I'm a witch. I'm a
Okay,
priest.
there you go. There you go. Okay.
May, whatever you want. You just don't call myself a warlock because that's an insult.
Okay. See, that's another topic for another panel, another day. Okay.
Hmm.
Christina, how about you, hun?
This has been quite a journey for me of identity. I started as an occultist or a high magician before I became a witch. I do call myself a witch, but I don't even know necessarily if that term is all encompassing for who I really am.
Okay.
So it's complicated, and I think I'm open minded and open to my journey. And, as I evolve, that my titles and what I call myself may evolve. But honestly, at the end of the day, I think what we all practice is beyond words.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Hmm.
Ashley, how about you, hun?
Right on.
Um, yeah, I I jokingly call myself a witch when people kind of say like, "Oh, you're into all that stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a witch." But like like I my process into spirituality is very different. Well, not very different, but I never saw it as like a Wiccan or a witch path. But I like the title a witch. If someone calls me, I'm never offended or anything. I think it's great, and I call myself a lot of different things. Sometimes I just say I'm spiritual. I have a
Mm-hmm.
spiritual practice, or I do kind of a spiritual healing thing. That's usually kind of what I define myself as. But I love the word witch. I think it's fantastic. Yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Debbie, how about you, hun?
I actually do love the fact that we've begun to embrace the word witch again, because
Me
it
too.
has been. I once went
Hmm.
into a store to buy a pointy witch hat, and she said, "It's funny you're buying this," and I'm like, "No, really, I'm a witch." And she said, "Oh, honey, don't say that about yourself." Um, and I said, "Oh, no, 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 really." I actually tried very hard not to call myself anything for a while. I thought the point of being pagan was that you just kind of a one from column A, one from column B, you figured out what you were doing. And the more I published and the more I taught, I realized people kept saying, like, what are you?
Yeah.
And first, I was joking with a
Hmm.
friend. I said, I'm a Jewish ritual magician, but that's really long. And so I just started calling myself a witch because honestly, it was just easier.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, you get into the conversation where
Hmm.
people say, "Are
Hmm.
you Wiccan?" And then I
Nope.
won't get into this here, but I think they're very different.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so I'd
Yes.
be like, "No, no,
Unfortunately.
I was no disrespect. I was never Wiccan." I came up through doing fairy work with R.J. Stewart, so that's a non-initiatory. Fairy work is much more organic, so you don't worry about what someone's calling
Hmm.
you.
Right. Right.
You know, and as
Yes.
I started
That's
meeting
an
new
excellent
people
point.
and getting into different things, everyone, well, what are you? I don't know. I'm a New Yorker. Um, I'm from Manhattan.
Yeah.
Don't
That.
piss me off.
Okay. There you go. There you go. Attitude behind that.
There
Okay.
you go.
Rhonda, what do you think, hun?
Right on. What I call myself is witch. It is witch, and I have practiced Wicca, so I have been in that world and still swirl in that pool. I do. But going back to the notion, and several things that you all have mentioned, Ashley, the fact that you love the word, Debbie, the fact that you claiming that word and it not being something that someone takes as an insult, that people are
Right.
proud to wear that and use and call themselves that, and it's a word that they take and hold dear, as opposed to it being an insult. So yeah, I'm happy to hear that reclaiming and I don't want to use that for all the various other reasons, but I
Yes, I
love
don't
that
like
we're taking ownership of it
that. Okay,
and
yes.
using it in a way that is in empowering. I'll use that word.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. That I
What
like
about
that
you,
word.
Star?
For me, I've always been a witch. I think it's because I know exactly what the etymology of the word Wiccan or Wicca is. So because of that, I embrace that witch, and
Mhm.
I'm not. I've been like that for many years, almost from the very beginning. Once I knew what I was, and that was it. Anybody that
Mhm.
tries to go around it, I'm in New York. I'm Canadian and coming across the world and living in New York. You're very brazen about who you are. Anyone in any particular avenue that they're right there in a
Mhm.
club or whatever it is, and they're like, "You're kind of weird, what are you? Who are you?" And I'm like, "I'm a fucking witch," you know. And I'm like, to me, it's like it's
That's
claiming and
right.
identifying who I am. I'm not reclaiming anything. It's not a derogatory word. It's not to be used as something to admonish
Right.
someone with, or like a whipping stone. And they've done that for so many years. And I'm like, honey, I'm all of it. However you take it, it's on you. That's your thing. It's not a me thing. It's a
Mhm.
your thing. And I just leave it there. So, hey. Yes, love. Go ahead, Christina.
That's
Right on.
actually how
Right
I
on.
came to accept my identity as a witch. Is someone did insult me and call me a witch, and I was so offended until I really sat there and thought about
Mm.
it, and I'm like, wait a second, I am a witch. So through an insult is how I
Mhm.
kind of came to my identity. So I think that's
See,
just
there you
really
go. Go
interesting.
ahead, Edward.
That's really
I've never been
interesting.
offended by the.
Yeah.
I never took offense to the word witch because the simple fact is I've always been one. I've been one since I grew. I grew up as a witch. I grew up in the craft. I grew up learning this theology and everything else. So being a witch has never been an offensive term for me. I live it.
Right, right. See,
It's
this is
not
what we mean
something.
about different worlds for
That's it.
different people, because depending on the world you're in and how brazen or how emboldened you feel to empower that word, that's where you are. And so that's
Mhm.
a beautiful thing that we all in one form or another did. I think Ashley had something to say.
Yeah, I just wanted to put in, like, just
Mhm.
like you're saying, Star, it has a lot to do with also like cultural context, right? Like, so in like the cultural circles I run in, which is not, there are words for a healer or a spiritual person who does positive things,
Yeah.
right, in their context. So the word witch is like for somebody who does spiritual things in a negative context. So in like more of Western
Mhm.
circles, I find that witch is way more acceptable, and that's why I like it. But in certain
Cultural,
cultures,
yeah.
which is like, it's saying like you're spiritual, but it's not that spirituality is bad or anything that you're doing is bad, but they're thinking that what
In
you're
a
doing is
negative
in a
manner.
negative context. Yeah,
Yes,
but
That's
yes.
in
interesting.
a positive context, they're like, oh yeah, she's that lady who fixes your problems. That's great. Or that man, you know what I mean? Like, you're like,
Right.
what
That
you're
is so
Right.
doing is
funny.
fine. It just make sure it's good, you know?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
that's what they think. That's all I'm saying.
yeah. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Debbie.
Well, what's
Right
interesting,
on.
because I actually do everything backwards. Um, I had I s- I had my first sort of spiritual experience when I was 7 years old, and I never really thought too much about it. But people around me identified me as a witch because
Hmm.
when I
That's a
just
good
thought
call
I
out
didn't
too.
never thought I was psychic. I just thought nobody was paying attention, and then you start to realize as you grow
Mhm.
into it that that's not what it is, that you actually, I had an astrologer, bless her heart, she's now crossed the veil. She
Oh,
said to me, she said, listen, you can see through lead, and you can't assume everyone knows what you know, so don't tell everybody what you're thinking. You just let it unfold. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, okay. But by the time I identified as a witch, it was just because honestly everybody wanted to know what I was. I
right,
mean,
right.
it was just really, and that's the other side of
Mm.
publishing books and teaching and getting out there. Everybody wants to know,
Right,
what
right,
what are you?
right. It's an
Be-
interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead, Christina.
because I think what people want to
I
know,
I
I think a lot of people want to know who you are because they want to know who they are. And I think labels, whether we
Mhm.
like them or not, help us navigate
Yes.
who we are and to fit in with other people, because ultimately I think a lot of us just want to be accepted and want to fit in. So when you see someone who is, you know, participate in certain things and has certain gifts and abilities, and everyone's like, who are you? That helps you figure out who you are too. And I think we get our identity, you know, we can say we're a witch, but a lot of the times we get our identity from our peers or from the outside world.
Yeah, that's true. And a lot of it, see,
I just want to chime in real quick.
I would love to see us doing. What is that? I didn't hear you.
I was just
Rhonda.
going to chime in. No, go ahead, Star. I will come back after you finish. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, I was just going to say that it's interesting that a Christian or a Catholic or whatever it is doesn't get questioned in general in a topic per se as to who are you, what are you, you know, that kind of a thing. But we do, as if we're always on the defense, you know, having to identify who we are. And it's I would like us to get to the point where people are just like, mind your bloody business. It's none of your business. Don't ask. Don't. So it's not a me thing or a you thing again. I'm back to that because it's their problem, not mine, kind of a thing. Anyway, son, go ahead, Rhonda.
I was going to comment on a couple of things. I love the cultural piece, the language in the context of the environment you're in. So Ashley, what you were saying is some people take the word witch and they have this understanding because of, you know, their cultural background, where they're coming from. And that is really important to remember. But it also goes to what both notion of identifying yourself and finding your picture, and language being so important, and finding the right language, because I don't want to enter a community and call myself witch and it be completely understood in a way other than what I understand it to be. So you know what I'm saying? So if I step into another environment and I say, yes, I'm a witch, it's understood completely other. And that's something that we have. There's something important to understand with that. So Edward, I saw your hand.
Debbie had her hand up for me.
Oh, it doesn't. Well, okay.
Debbie.
Oddly enough, the first time somebody took me calling myself a witch in a negative context was when I was attending an interfaith seminary in Manhattan.
See, there you go. An interfaith.
And all of and I hate to, forgive me for all the people watching, but it was the Christians. And we had to do a practicum, and I did the first hand fasting that they had ever had for the wedding practicum. And one of the deans came up to me, and he was verklempt. His eyes were all watery, and he said, "I really have to rethink a lot of things now." And I was like, "Good. Then my job is done."
Yeah. I think we need to have more interfaith experiences. I was lucky to have one in Queens at a one of those places, the Veshti or whatever. It was a Hindu temple of all places, and they had it held there. And I was just like, wait a minute, there are all these people, including some Christian representative from all these different faiths, and here they were in a Hindu temple, and they were recognizing us. They invited me to that to participate and to be one of the people that they recognized, and I was just like. And Vishnu is there, and other gods and goddesses that were there around the temple. And I'm like, this is fucking awesome. I was so like rocking with this, like, excellent. You know, this is so amazing. I was like, I need more of this. Edwards, honey, go ahead.
Okay. Right on. I have experience. I used to live in Arkansas in the heart of the Bible Belt, and it was a little bit tricky being a witch in the middle of the Bible Belt, because of some factors that, you know, you have a sensitive amount of Southern Baptist Christians. And they took the term witches in a negative context, but I never did. I was very open about my craft practice and being a craft member. And we were doing a ritual outside of our house one day, and we got actually walked in upon by a couple Mormons. And the Mormons walked in and they turned around and said,
Mm.
"What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, we're doing a Lunacy festival. You're welcome to witness it from the distance. Stay outside of the circle area. You can watch what we do." So we proceeded with the ritual and everything else. And when they got done with the ritual, the two Mormons turned around and said, "You guys are more spiritual than we are."
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. That's
So,
interesting.
they, so
See?
if you act on what I'm saying is if you act, you know, live the craft and you breathe it and you live it, you live being a witch, enjoy being a witch, then you shouldn't take offense to the word. There's no reason to. You display what you are.
Right, right. But I can understand where Ashley's coming from, culturally speaking, and
Mhm.
because I've learned that here. Again, I'm not Black American, so a lot of things that Ashley may have been raised with, or different people seeing them differently, I was not faced with that. When I'm faced with it, I'm just brazen the way I am because I was not raised in it. So I don't know how to act any other way other than myself. So if they take offense, I'm like, that's on
Mhm.
you. Because I always feel like as adults, it's on us to educate ourselves about other people's religions, just like, and I treat it as racism. How they see culturally with a person with whatever their cultures
Mhm.
are or their races are, they judge, right? And they assume things already. So if they don't educate themselves and learn to work with those people to understand them, then it's their disservice, and they're doing the other group a disservice as well. So I kind of see that word witch in
Mhm.
that same context, because it's just like, if you're going to be against what I am, then you're going to be against the whole thing. You're not willing to learn for yourself and educate yourself as to what
Mhm.
other people's are. That everybody exists outside of you and your religion and your culture, that kind of a thing. Go ahead, Christina.
I just think we're in really
Right.
interesting times right
Right.
now when
Yeah.
other people can judge you or make comments about your identity. Your
Yeah,
identity is your identity, and no
exactly.
one can define your identity. I know we talked about we find our identity through other people, but at the core of it, our identity is our identity. And like with trans and LGBTQ people not accepting people's chosen identities. So I just think it's really interesting times right now where a lot of us are trying to claim our identity that's controversial, and other people are
Mhm.
telling us, no, that's not who you are. You can't tell me who I am.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But I think the other side
Point.
of that is there's
Well
things
said.
that we do
Ashley.
that are
Oh, Debbie.
oh, I'm sorry.
No,
There's
go
things that
ahead, Debbie.
there's things that we do that have now sort of leached into popular culture in a
Yes,
weird way. I was watching, I'm a huge baseball fan, New York Mets, just saying. And I'm watching a game, and Ron Darling said all this stuff was going wrong. And he said, "Is Mercury retrograding?" And you could have knocked me off my
there you
chair.
go.
I
Right.
mean, baseball guys, bless their hearts. But I mean, like, all of a sudden, like, it's a baseball game. I think is Mercury retrograding, and I'm talking to the TV. I'm like, not for 2 weeks, you know.
And
But
the fact that he said it, though,
but
right?
the fact that even when Hurricane Sandy was
Yeah.
rolling in, you heard weathercasters going, well, the moon is full and it's a super moon and it's causing, so all of a sudden people are
Yes.
paying attention to the stuff that we've always paid attention to.
Right,
I
right.
mean, I
And
always know
mentioning it.
I
And
always know
mentioning
where
it.
the moon is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now it's not this like secret topic. It's like people are talking about Mercury retrograding. People are talking about, seeing Venus in the sky next to the crescent moon. There, it's but as long as they don't think anyone's taking it seriously, it's okay. As long as it's like sort of a
Thing.
curiosity and
Yep.
kind of a cute thing, then it's okay. But when I published the tarot tip sheet, which was the first thing I ever published, people were fine with that. People would joke and go, "Oh, are you going to turn me into a frog?" And I'd be like, "Well, I can turn you back." Um, when you start to publish the anthologies of occult wisdom, there is nowhere to hide. You have come out and said it, and all of
Mm-mm.
a sudden, not so funny anymore because you use the O word. And
Yes.
once you let people really understand, because people say, "Oh, I know what you're doing." I'm like, "Honey, I love you so much, but you don't have a clue." You just don't. You don't understand the depth of it until you really get to know me, and I let you understand the depth of it.
Awesome.
Right
Awesome.
on.
Go ahead.
Ashley, I
Ashley,
know
go
your
ahead.
hand has been up for a while, and then Christina. Yeah.
Well, I just want to say, just kind of piggybacking off what Debbie said, it I feel like it being in popular culture so much, just like Debbie was saying, it's like there's a part of it, it's like it's not very serious. So when people do use the word witch, you think like the witchy aesthetic, right? Like, oh, these girls on TikTok, it's usually cis women like wearing black and like going
Yeah.
into the woods and like, oh, it's so cool. But it's like
Yeah.
obviously we all know it's so much more than that. So like on the one hand, it's 100% not anybody's responsibility to explain to other people what witch means to them. But I do think because of, at this point, thousands of years of information and holy books and all these different kinds of stuff, people's idea of what a witch, it's never going to, well, not never, hopefully, but at this point in time, it's going to be very like, oh, so you collect eyes of toad and like all that kind of stuff. Again, it's nobody's responsibility to explain it. I'm not saying that, but it is. And like, for instance, just talking about Mercury in retrograde, I don't understand astrology, never will. Am I like a spiritual person? Yeah, but I don't get it. Like, I'm a Gemini, that's where it stops. Like, so sometimes
Right.
people say that to me, like, oh, you're a witch. Do you like tell me about my signs? I'm like, girl, I don't know. Like, I have no idea like what to tell you. Like, so it's different.
Right on.
It's such like, and as you were guys, you, Rhonda, and Star were both saying at the beginning, it's such a broad topic and it means
Yeah.
so many things to different people. So even like if you say you're a witch, it's like sometimes people are like, okay, like, but they don't know what that means because it means something different to each one of us, even right here in
Right.
this space. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just crazy.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's see now that on its own, just the word witch seems to be its own little topic without going into the rest of what we wanted to talk about with it. But again, we're gonna have to do a show on that, just on the word witch and what it means to people and the definitions and everything. But like wanted to kind of follow up with, when you identify as that witch or any of those things, who decided that? Who called you that? Who told you that you were a kind of a thing? Or did you decide that on your own? Because that's something that
Or
you have to think about.
another way of saying it, how is it validated?
Well, see,
You know,
that's the
how are
thing.
you
I don't even
validated as
I don't
a
even
witch?
want to say that word, but you can go ahead. I just,
I'm saying that because when people say, "Are you deemed or self-designating?"
yeah.
there's this undertone to that.
Yes,
So
yes. I'm like,
I'm
but then
throwing
who made
that
you a
language in
witch?
there.
I'm like, Jesus, here we go with the
Yeah,
chicken and the chicken and the egg all over again.
an egg.
The chicken and the egg all
Yes,
over again.
yes.
Okay. All right. Edward had his hand up first, so let's hear what Edward had to say.
Now, I'm going to answer your question from my perspective, and this is from where I was told I was a witch when I was first initiated into the craft traditions.
Okay.
Because I was initiated as an Alexandrian Wiccan from my mother, who was a high priestess in the CAW,
Okay.
Church of All Worlds. And one of the things that we do within the Alexandrian Wiccan traditions and a lot of other Wiccan traditions is we have a degree system that runs from initiate to first to second to third degree, from seeker to initiate to first, second, and third.
Right.
As a seeker, right, you're basically a child just coming out of the womb and just beginning to grow into the birth of the goddess.
Okay.
Then you move to initiate, that's your puberty rite. That's when you you first reach puberty, you first start understanding who you are as a child, and start learning, developing, and growing from there. Then you have the adolescence rite, maiden warrior, which is from 13 to 21. That's your first degree. When you start realizing you become more recognizing your sexuality, recognizing you as an individual and stuff. And this has happened in all cultures. This happens in nature. And then you have the mothers and fathers' rights. That's the parenthood rights when you reach the age of 21 on up to that point where you learn that second degree. That's where you learn all the your nature of yourself and how you take care of your rest of your tribe as you learn to grow and you have children of your own that you're raising, and then you go into finally the code and elders rights, which is third degree, and that's when you have the whole tribe's responsibility as being a teacher to the rest of the tribe and thing. This is where we correlate it in Wiccan tradition with a degree system. So this is why we use the initiate perspective in the Wiccan traditions.
Okay.
We correlate it with a tribal type growth period from time of your child to the time of adulthood.
Right. I'll ask you a question, but Christina had her hand up, so let me have her speak, and then I'll ask you a question about that. Go ahead.
So coming from a shamanic background, coming from a transpersonal psychology background, coming from an anthropology background, I believe that this is me personally, believe that no human has the power, the right to initiate another human being, and that only the divine and the gods can choose. Like, the definition of a shaman academically is someone who had a psycho-spiritual death and rebirth, and the universe chose you to be a healer, to be a seer, to be someone with a foot between two worlds. So my personal opinion, and I know it's probably unpopular among some people, is that no human can initiate another human. Okay. I think that is very egotistical to think that a human has that kind of power.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else want to chime in on that before I ask Edward a question?
Yeah. Ashley, did you have your hand up?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought Ashley had her hand up.
Oh yeah. Real quick. Okay, go ahead, Debbie. You go first.
Okay, you don't have to do that, even though I'm a New Yorker and I'm really pushy. No,
it's fine. I'm totally fine. But yeah.
Coming from not just the fairy tradition, but from a Hermetic background, working with Dolores Ashcroft-Nowitzki, we also believe that the human facilitates the initiation. But I have to say, one of my most profound experiences was when and I was not going to get initiated because I have trouble with authority figures. But they tap you on the shoulder enough and you go, fine, I'll do it. And there's this moment where during the beginning part of the initiation, you're blindfolded. And then you're in front of Dolores and they take the blindfold off and she puts the cord around your waist and she tells you to look in her eyes and see yourself reflected back as an initiate. And I looked in her eyes and she was not there. And I went, okay, that's really cool. Because it's just, you're a conduit.
Yeah.
And anyone who's telling you that a person can initiate you, that's hubris. That's just not working out for anybody. Because that means that person has some sort of dominion over you, or they think they have some kind of dominion over you, which is not the case, or it shouldn't be the case. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Christina, you had your hand up again, or Rhonda?
Just witchcraft today, too. Another 2 cents of mine is I think witchcraft. How do we really define witches and witchcraft? Because to me, modern witchcraft really blurs the line between high magic.
Yep. Ceremonial and high magic. Yep.
Yeah.
They're not practicing necessarily witchcraft, but yeah, you're right.
With the whole initiation. And
I wanted to get Ashley's feedback too.
Oh yeah, just to piggyback off what both Debbie and Christina said. So first off, speaking from like a shamanism background, also, I know like you said, where the word shamanism comes from in like Northeastern Asia, they believe there that like only the ancestors can pick somebody, and I believe there's kind of a difference between an educational initiation, like going, I hope this doesn't sound at all offensive, but I think getting initiated into traditions is more like going to like college, like, or going to like a school. Like you can learn everything about that tradition and like how it works and all the rituals. But I believe that if somebody doesn't have this spiritual connection, like think about all the people who study esoteric stuff and hermeticism and all these things from just an educational standpoint, they don't even want to get into the spiritual part of it. If somebody was like, hey, do you want to be an initiate? I mean, maybe, I don't know, because I'm not part of these traditions, but like they could be like, well, I know everything about it. And it's like, yeah, you can know everything about it. But if you don't, well, not everything, but you know what I'm saying? Well, like if you don't have that connection, like then there is nothing there. So I agree with both of you kind of saying it is a lot of hubris for people to be like, well, I can tell you that now you're good in the God's eyes. Like, I agree. Like, I think it's up to them, but I do think it's super valuable for people to learn from different traditions and people to learn from people who have been in those traditions for a really,
Right,
really long time.
right, right.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm, mhm,
Edward had his
mhm.
hand up.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to respond. I'm not saying that my way is the only way or the correct way or like any other tradition. There's various different traditions. What I was explaining is
Yeah.
the reason we have the initiatory system in Wicca, because I'm from one of the oldest Wiccan traditions. The Alexandrian's the second oldest Wiccan tradition in the United States. Is that
Mhm,
we worked it on the premise of what tribal society basically was when it comes to learning how to evolve into a tribal society and become part of a tribal unit.
Right, right, right.
And this is
Absolutely.
how we incorporated our ideology from that perspective in
Okay.
the Wiccan tradition.
mhm.
Okay. I want
So,
to I want to interject really quickly with that. And Edward is right with his traditions, and in a many traditions they have, and we don't have with our, like, for just to give you an example, some of what Edward said with the greed system, we have it at our academy. We have all of that, but we teach
Mhm,
theology across the board and not just traditions. So we giving people a different, like
mhm,
a whole from a whole perspective, and then to have them make their own choices as to where they want to take it. And so we would do, as opposed to say the Alexandrian tradition, we do dedications, not
Mhm.
initiations. And we
okay,
feel
mhm,
like if it's
mhm,
a
and
dedication to, and nothing against what you're saying, I'm just saying in general,
no,
what we
that's
do
reasonable.
is
A dedication,
dedications to the gods and goddesses. We have them choose their own gods and goddesses. We're not dictating to them which ones they choose, and then they choose to dedicate themselves to those particular gods and goddesses or whatever. And mine is different from my students and different people because it's their choices. I'm not the
mhm,
one to tell
mhm,
them what to choose. And some of them they choose from around the world. That, again, their choices. So they're dedicating themselves to
mhm,
that. Whereas initiatory is initiating yourself into that tradition itself. It has nothing to do with dedicating yourself, as I see it, anyways. My perspective, not anyone else's,
yeah,
as
yeah.
dedicating yourself to the gods and goddesses. It's entirely different as to how you see it. And that's the way we formatted it for, based on that, so that way people can have, again, their own choices, their own rights, their own perspective on things. I can't say to you, you are whatever type of witch or whatever. That's not my right. I don't see it as my right. I see it as my right to teach and
Okay.
educate you. And that's, I guess, it's part of the reason why when people ask me, like, what are you, who are you, and they want to, or even saying the Mercury retrograde, I walk away. I'm like, if I say what I have to say and I walk away, I'm not there to educate them. You want me to educate you? Come to my school. Until then, I'm not there to educate you. It's on you as an adult. Google it. What are witches? You can take your own perspective on it. I can Google your Bible, or I, informed as an adult, read the Bible cover to cover. If
Mhm.
educate yourself on it, so you're not thinking in that narrow perspective with a lot of the Christians or whomever that's out there that has their perspectives on things. So it's a thought. Anyways, who has his
So
phone?
I wanted to just jump onto something else. I'm sorry, Debbie, I see
No,
your
no
hand
problem.
up real quick. I just wanted to bringing it back to that very personal space of did you feel any different? Let me use that language. Was it different your experience when you came to that understanding of how you were going to call yourself if
Right, right.
if you were
Yes.
deemed or initiated or
Yeah,
to have some personal impact on you?
exactly. So it's not based on your degree, but on you itself. It's a personal thing.
Yeah,
And that's a
yeah,
lot what I
yeah.
wanted to
Deb, and
comment multiple times tonight, is that you can say your first degree, second degree, whatever, but I think at the end of the day, a lot of it has to do with your action. Like, and Ashley had said, like, your connection to spirit. You can be a high priestess, but I know high priestesses that can't divinate to save their life, that can't do a magical spell, we're shit. So, a lot of these are just titles and words, and I think it's really action.
Yes. Debbie, you were going to
There was,
say.
I
Thank
was
you,
going to say
Christina.
something else, but apropos to that, there was someone I knew, whose name I will not mention, he was 24 years old and called himself a high priest. And he was posting stuff on Facebook. It was pissing me off, but I'm like, I don't ever throw down on Facebook. And he came to a
Right.
Dolores workshop, and I just looked at him. I sat down with him, and he was being very obsequious to me because he wanted to meet Dolores, which is very easy. You walk up to her and you say hello. But, he thought I would introduce him and whatever. And so I sat down with him and I said, you got to stop calling yourself a high priest. And he got really, really offended. And he said, why? And I said, you haven't even hit your first Saturn return yet. You have not been in that body long enough to be a high priest. And he was just so upset. And I said, Dolores is, at the time, she was like 85 years old. And I said, do you know, in all the years I've known Dolores, except for in ritual circumstances, I've never heard her call herself a high priestess. I said, do you know why? And he said, why? I said, because she walks in the room and you fucking know. All the hair stand up on the back of your neck. She doesn't have to say who she is. You go, oh shit, you must be here. I mean,
Right.
you see, when she walks into a workshop, when we were down at Sealy Court, they have a geodesic dome. She can be out in the other room getting ready to walk in, and everybody knows. I said, so you need to be in that body a little longer before you start calling yourself a high priest. Just saying. He didn't like
Well
that.
said. Thank you.
But I got rid of him, though.
Thank you.
I honestly, I think people can call themselves anything they want. They do that on Facebook anyways, and they say whatever, and I'm like, okay, it's all good. It has nothing to do with me. It's nothing personal. I have a tendency to walk away from it because it's their life, it's their whatever, their prerogative. I'm just like, whatever.
Here's the thing, though. You're educated. You've been doing this a long time, and it doesn't mean anything to you. But there's a million other people out there, and it means something to them. And then you have uneducated people trying to teach
Right.
other uneducated people, and that's where we run into problems.
The blind leading the blind kind of a thing.
And
TikTok witches.
And this is a problem.
Yeah,
so
we
if someone
see that
comes
a
to me,
lot.
so if someone comes to me, I can't even discuss it because I'm going to get all worked up about it. People who read a book and teach a class.
Right. And I've seen it on Facebook a lot, or different platforms.
It's just hideous.
Yeah.
But if you come to my tarot class and you say, should I do this? And I'm like, okay, no, don't ever do that. And then I can tell you about the time when I screwed up. Because I've been doing this since I was 16 years old. So everything that you can do wrong, I've done wrong at least once.
Yeah.
So I cannot just regurgitate something I read in a book. I can tell you about how,
right.
I did, I did a reading for a friend of mine, and her husband said, can I sit here? And she said, no, that's fine. And I was not doing it long enough to have the kind of boundaries to go, no. And I throw out the cards, and she's having an affair. Well, then what do you do? So now I'm dancing, because I'm really
trying to play.
I am really hard line about, once the cards are out, it is not about me. Right. So I'm like, and they were going to a doctor, they were going to a fertility doctor. So I did a pivot on the whole fertility doctor thing. And then her husband walked out and I went, girl.
Yes. Here's the thing. Let me just let Edward and then Ashley. I know you both had comments, please. Edward.
Okay, to me, this happens every 15 years when a new movie comes out or an old movie gets rehashed, like the movie The Craft. A lot of the pagan community end up having to face a bunch of new people coming in, claiming automatically high priest, high priestess of some mucky muck coven of some made up thing. And when we ask them how long they've been in the craft, they tell us they've been just started their coven yesterday. It's like, child, come back when you got 15, 20 years and then come talk to me about this. and claim yourself a high priest or high
Mhm.
priestess. I'm sorry, I'm not going to recognize your title by just because you can claim a title. That's like I can claim to be a
Mhm.
doctor, right, and not know how to, and all of a sudden not know how to do a single thing. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a surgeon, but if I claim the title, I want to identify as a doctor. Does that make me able to go into a hospital and perform a major surgery on somebody?
Well,
Mhm.
also,
Well said.
it, I like what you said, and one of the things that I find is because Debbie mentioned it, I think, and Ashley did too, um, and I think Christina did too. If if you are picking your teacher or mentor from Facebook, then that's on you, because
Or
those
TikTok.
platforms or any of those platforms, you need to research whether they've been around for a long time or whatever. Our school has been around since 2003, and people can check that all the way going back. There's a lot of new ones now and a lot of different things, but our school has been around that long. And if they check, they can see that going back how that long. Majority of people that you can check on Facebook, you can check and you can find out. I knew one who was a high priestess. I kid you not. She became a high priestess in 1 year.
I've
One
met
year.
some of those.
High priestess in
Mhm.
1 year. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, and I she wanted me to get my reverend status from Universal Life Church, and I said to her, I'm ordained under our temple. I worked to get that, and she literally was putting it down, and I'm like, okay, it's so to each his own kind of a thing. We parted ways after that, but to each his own. If that's her thoughts on it, that's her thoughts. I have nothing against Universal Life Church. I am simply saying we to be able to ordain anyone in New York State. New York State is the most strictest state of it all. Of all the 50 states, New York is the most strictest state for that. And we attained that. I told her the amount of work and time it took us to get there. I'm not giving that up for Universal Life Church. If that's how you got yours, I'm very happy for you. But it's not my way. To each his own kind of a thing. To me, I'm
Mhm.
that live and let live kind of person.
Yeah.
And you're not letting me live and let live. You wanna tell me what to do. And at my age, and you're a high priestess in 1 year. And she's proud of that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, ay vey.
Let me just yeah, there's a lot of that. Ashley, I know you also had a before.
Yeah, I think
And then
so
Christina,
much
but
of what, yeah, so much of, like, first of all, I agree with everything that Sarah is saying, and I think this really is a good part of what Edward was saying before and talking about his initiatory process in his tradition, because I can't tell you the amount of people that I've met who claim Wiccan or Wicca and have never heard of Gerald Gardner. That's not my tradition, and I know who he is. Like, you know what I mean? So like I'm really big on people at least knowing their history. You've got to at least know the history. Like, if you're gonna call yourself claim Wicca, you need to at least know something about the tradition of cunning folk in the British Isles. Like, who were they? What does that mean to the word? Where's the etymology of this word? Like,
There
you,
you go. That's the part, the
yeah,
etymology. Go ahead, girl.
yeah, you really got to know where the word, like, and I'm not saying you need to know every little thing, but that's what comes in then when this is why people we talk so much about right now in cultural appropriation, right? There would be so much less of it if
Mhm.
people just knew where stuff came from, because that's all we're asking is, like, just
Yeah.
know where
Yeah.
it
Where
comes
things
from and
came
the
from.
history of it, and know that, like, okay, when it comes to modern Wicca, it's mostly Gerald Gardner and these other different traditions, Dianic Wicca and Alexandrian. Like, know something about it. You don't need to know everything, but there's a
Or
lot of
before
people who
that.
Yes.
just,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people just hang on to it because it's cool. Like, and they're like, yeah, it's cool. Like, oh, I do
Yeah.
that. Like, cool. But, like, you have no idea what you're talking about. And the word means so much to so many people. And then you're offending a
Yeah.
whole group of people because you're acting like it's a joke. Like, you know what I mean? It's not a joke. It's not something, like you
Yeah.
said, you can't be a high priestess in a year. And the people who call themselves, half the time, they don't even know anybody else who is a high priestess. They just think it sounds good
Right.
because it
Right.
does. Like, it sounds really cool. But, like, I'm
Right
not going
on.
to go around calling myself that because I'm not. So, yeah.
Yep. Well said.
Yeah.
But
So well said. Thank you.
Go ahead, Debbie.
Yes, Deb.
but historically, it's the way
Christine.
we minimize things we're afraid of, right?
Mhm.
If you know your mythology, and the work I do, we had to learn two pantheons of mythology, right? If you know your mythology, you know Cupid was a badass.
Mhm.
Okay?
Mhm.
Cupid walked around with his little bow and arrow and said, "Who can I fuck with next?" Cupid was
Exactly.
not the little
Exactly.
Cupid was not the little cute baby spreading sunshine and daisies all over the place. But in order to take the
Right.
power away from him, that's what they turned him into.
Yeah.
Whether you believe in it or
Mhm.
not, the unicorn was a mythical being.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We all know the stories.
Mhm.
They were fooling around and they missed their spot on the ark or whatever. But the best way to minimize what that is to sell, you know, speckled unicorn poop, and everyone thinks it's so
Yeah.
adorable, but they take it and they make it not serious.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. They
I have
minimize a lot of
True.
things.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I mean, I have lovely neighbors downstairs, and Halloween came, and they had a big green witch with a wart on her nose on the door, and we were talking
Mhm.
about it, and I said, "Listen, whatever works for you." I said, "But I have to tell you, I identify totally differently, and I'm a little offended. I like you, but I'm a little offended by that
Lack of
because
education. I don't
because
get offended, honestly. I'll
Mhm.
tell you, I don't, because I'm like,
not offended so much, but I thought it was important to like let them know that as witches, that's not what we are.
Mhm.
right.
God bless Margaret
Right.
Hamilton, but I still think she got a bad rap in The Wizard of Oz. I mean, her sister died
Right.
for
Right
God's
on.
sakes, and then her shoes got stolen. So,
Right.
They
Right.
take things and they
Christina.
make things evil. They have to always other
mhm,
things, that
Yes.
and they've been doing the othering for years, right? We've watched it happen.
Yep.
Now it's more politicized with the other. Everything has to be
Yes.
othered. But part of it, I think, is the lack of education, or people willfully not willing to learn history or their entomology. Or
Mhm.
And the one time I put down the Wiccan entomology, Wicca, Wiccan, Wicca, and I put it down in writing, suddenly I'm seeing it with a few people that are calling themselves priests and priestesses, and suddenly they're putting it in the different
Mm.
things. I'm like, when did they take my exact words and take it
mm,
and put it all over these places as if it was their words? I'm like,
Mhm.
Mhm.
that's my words. I have it
Mm.
in my doctrine of my writing for my school. So I know those are my exact words
mm,
that they're all taking now and using. And I'm like, what, you guys didn't do your own research? If you did your own research, you wouldn't have
Mhm.
my exact wording of everything.
mhm,
But they didn't.
Yeah.
They just
Well,
took my word. So after that, I
plagiarism is a
stopped posting
thing.
any of my knowledge on Facebook, because I'm not having you take it and act like it's your words when
yeah.
I know the way it's written is exactly like a copy and paste of what I said.
Yeah.
So
That
I get
happens.
upset
Yeah.
with that.
And hey,
You know,
As you should.
Christina, before we,
I'm
because
like,
I know you had your
at
hand up
least tell
for a
people I
while.
took those words from Star. At least say that I took those words
Mhm,
from Star.
Yeah.
But to not do that and act
Yeah.
like it's their words, and I'm sitting there going, "That's my words exact," and I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay, I wrote down
Yeah.
because I've been wanting to say something for quite a while, so I wrote it all down. 4 points to piggyback on Star what
Yes.
you're saying, but what everyone else has said. Don't worry, the universe will always weed these people out who plagiarize, who say they're a witch or high priestess and they're really not. I truly believe the universe will out
Yeah.
them in some way, shape, or form. Action speaks louder than words. You can call yourself whatever you want, but if you don't have the education, the knowledge, the wisdom, don't know your mythology and so forth, like your actions speak louder. A lot of us, not only are we fighting against the pop culture, I was just watching TV the other day, and AMC had all these commercials for all these new witch TV shows coming out. So, like what Edward said, like when a new movie comes out, we have to like fight another battle.
"Yeah,
But ultimately, we're fighting the archetype of the witch, which is this old, ugly, white hag. So I think we have a lot of work to do.
Mhm.
But I think in the end, everything will balance
Yeah.
out. And
Yes, we do.
initiatory or not, or dedication, or however we come to being a witch, the fact that the witch is such a personal identity and personal term, none of us are right. It's just our
mhm,
opinion, and how I think there's lots of different paths to get to the same place.
or
Absolutely.
or the witch, like you just said,
Well said.
personally, when people say the word and what it means to them, it's a construct of what they think that word means to them, spiritually or otherwise. And
Totally.
so you have to
Totally.
empower or embrace whatever that construct is for yourself and work with it.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So,
Okay. Anybody else
everybody, I
have
just
some
want to
comments
just
on that?
do a time check real quick. A
Yeah,
time
I just
check real
realized the
quick
time
because we
because we
are
had one more
at
question.
5 minutes. Yeah, we do. We're 5 minutes to the top of the hour. So I don't know if we'll be able to get through that, but we can try. If y'all are in it, we can try. We have 5 more minutes before we need to really call it a night. Star, what was that last question we wanted to get
The
to?
last question that we had was because we've had people say it out loudly, publicly on live podcast, um, that only initiates are the big W witch, and everybody else are the small W witches. They've said it out loud, and I'm sitting there going, "Are you bloody kidding me? Did you just say that?"
Hmm.
Kind of a thing. And they believe that because they laughed about it, and they're like, "But that's what we think." And I was like, "Okay, to each his own again." But that bothered me because, like, how dare you and who are you to say that because we're not of your tradition or you or not initiated, that we are the small W witches and you guys are the only ones that are big W witches? Like, big, small, what the hell?
Oh,
Kind
clearly they're suffering from erectile dysfunction. It, I'm sorry, that was wrong.
That, this is the thing.
Okay, so that's the
But
question in
there's
general.
such a
So speak
thing
up.
within the community. Yeah, there's such a thing within the community, and that goes back to that point about validation. Is there a need, or is it really required? And I'm I'm using about the timeline that we're in the modern witch system, 20th century to today. We have gone through some changes. We have modernized our practice. We are no longer of that same mindset that it has to be a certain way. In today's mind, do you feel a shift that's happening, or is there such a thing as this big W, small W witch?
Go ahead, Edward.
My
Yes,
opinion of
Edward.
this, whoever came off with this big W, small W, which BS, and that's exactly what I consider it, is BS. Okay? First of all, I'm one, like I said, I'm from one of the oldest traditions going on right now in modern witchcraft.
Mhm,
And we don't do that. We don't consider that, we don't even take that into account. We're not the number one only craft practice there is. In fact, as we broke away from the Gardnerians and became Alexandrians, for the very fact is we got tired of the whole thing of the lineage,
Mhm.
and we must
mhm,
do it our
mhm.
way that the Gardnerians had. So therefore, that's why the Alexandrian tradition was formed, was more eclectic.
Mhm, mhm.
And the fact of the matter is, this whoever come up with this big witch, small witch bull crap, right? That's exactly what it is, bullshit.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I'm going to
Right
call
on.
on.
Thank
Anybody
you.
else?
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
Let me
Thank you,
introduce
Edward.
him to
That was
me.
beautifully said.
Introduce this person to me. I guarantee I'll have him crying by the end of the day.
But the thing about it is that he was speaking behind with his coven, and other coven members of
mhm,
his agreed. So I think for your section maybe of the of your tradition, you don't believe in that and it's BS to you. But there are, I think, just like how we have people siphoning off or hiving off or different things. I think
mhm,
the whole construct of the different traditions and covens and stuff like that, they come up with their own things. And they believe, I mean,
mhm,
that's what Gardner did and Alexandra did. I mean, that's what they did. They
mhm.
came up with their own things, and that's how they formed their traditions. So as people
Yeah.
grow, they modernize or whatever it is, and they call certain things or they morph into other things, and that's what they practice. And now you hear them saying these things, whether on different platforms or podcasts. That was the part that got me, that they said it in a podcast and they were laughing at people with that. And I thought it was so disrespectful. and
Well,
offensive.
well,
Pretty
I know.
narcissistic.
Abby.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know I made a joke before, but some people don't feel they don't have a way to identify themselves. They don't have any self-respect. They don't have any the word's not coming to me. So they pick this thing.
Mm,
Some people become vegans, and so they come to your house and they make you feel
mhm,
uncomfortable because there's a cow on the table or something. They have to hang their
mhm,
hat on something. Now, I can tell from all of you, and I can only speak for myself, I was born this way. I was never not this way. So I didn't have to create a
mhm.
persona for myself. I had to manage it. I had to figure out
Yeah.
how to work it in the regular world, but I didn't have to create myself. And a lot of people who don't necessarily have, I'm a graphic designer. I have, I can do a lot of things. I don't have to worry about how I'm identified or how I define myself. And some people do.
Yeah. No,
And
you're
some
right.
people
Yes.
just
Well
choose
said.
this. And because they choose it that way, then they have to go, well, I'm better than you because of this.
Right. Right.
Or,
Mhm,
if
mhm.
you have to go through this and then you'll be as good as me, and just, two
Right.
finger salute. I mean,
And
that's
those
it.
are the people who can't do magic to save their lives are the ones who are like, look at me, I'm a big bad witch. I'm so good at what I do. Like,
Right.
yeah, like you said, erectile dysfunction, and they probably drive a big truck with big wheels.
I'm actually kind of sorry I said that.
And just to acknowledge in our chat, we have Rob who has been joining us almost every
Yes.
show.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Rob,
much,
and thank you for
Rob.
your
Yeah.
comments and questions. Listen, y'all, we are at the top of the hour. I
Yes.
thank you all. And, I just want to say if you have some final comments, please do share. But we want to thank you for taking the time to join us in this panel. We can go on because I think actually, Star, there was one other question in there too that we
I
could have
know. We'll,
gotten
we'll
to.
have to
But,
forego that question
but
and come up with
Part
another
two.
time for us to get together. Awesome.
There
Part
might have to
two.
be a part two.
yes.
Yeah, part
Yes.
two.
Yes.
So
So,
I just
thank you
want
any
to
all
final
so
words
much
that
for
you guys
joining
want to
us
say?
tonight.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say my final comment, like based on the last question and over the whole conversation, was my when people use a big W, large W, whatever. But going back off what Debbie and Christine were saying, all my whole life I used to just say, I don't know, but God talks to me in a way that I guess He doesn't talk to everybody else. Like that was just my thing. I was like, I hear Him, I feel Him. And now I refer to all my gods. I feel them, I see them, and whatever that is, it's awesome for me. Like I'm
Right
honored, I'm
on.
humbled by them
Well
for doing
said.
it. So like I don't care, little witch, big witch, whatever. I just love
Yeah.
that they pick me to talk to sometimes. So
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think there
Beautiful.
should be a
Thank you.
size. A size. This is one of those things
yeah.
where size does not matter. But somehow, why was it a male that was picking up the size? I think you might be right about that. Dysfunction. Because it was a male that was saying that. But to each his own kind of a thing. Okay. So Debbie, any last words?
I don't know that I can do any last words quickly, except this was really, really fun. And I really enjoyed hearing everybody else's opinion on this.
Yeah, this was nice.
Awesome. Thank you.
Edward?
My last words on this is, as harm you none, do what you will is normally some of the law that I believe, and harm none includes yourself. As for the only other thing I have to say about the whole topic is this is not something I do, it's something I live. It's something I am. I
Mhm.
eat it, I breathe it, I sleep it, I drink it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I am a witch.
And that's all that matters. And you're the
Bravo.
only one claiming that. Bravo. Bravo.
Yay.
Christina?
That's it.
Yeah, a lot about what Edward just said. That was beautiful, Edward. If you're gonna claim to be a witch, this walk the talk.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Wanda, what about you, babe?
No, this is fabulous. I am grateful to have
Yeah.
had this conversation with every one of you
Agree.
tonight. I'm ready to continue. So whatever we can do next time to continue
Yes.
this
Yes. Yes.
conversation
Thank you
and go there,
guys
I'm
so
in
much.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This has been so fun.
All right.
And I
And
think
before we
outside of
sign
that,
off,
um, go
share,
ahead.
yes, we do have this.
You're slowing down, sweetie. I'm not sure. Go ahead, Rhonda. Are you there?
I was breaking up on me. I'm sorry. I was breaking up on you. I just wanted to share that we do
Oh,
have Witches Fest coming up and Witch coming up this summer.
yes, yes,
And I
yes.
wanted to share our commercial with you all. So have a fabulous night, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again. And we will be back next week with who? Patty Negri.
Patty Negri. Yes, yes.
Ooh.
She missed that last time, so she's gonna be